There is a dangerous misconception that weakness and loss of strength are simply a natural, inevitable price for a long life. We often tell ourselves, I just get tired faster, I need to rest more and take care of myself. But what if I told you that this rest is the biggest mistake you're making right now? New alarming data from 2024 shows what you consider fatigue is actually biological cannibalism. Your body literally begins to eat its own muscles to survive. A study from Harvard Medical School revealed a shocking statistic. Elderly people who lose a critical mass of leg muscles have a 70% higher risk of never getting up again after their very first fall. Think about that. One fall, and you are bedridden for the rest of your days. What is shocking is that 99% of people over 70 ignore this process until it's too late, until they find themselves in a situation where they can't walk to the toilet on their own. One of the factors that accelerates this decay, and it is second on our list, blocks any attempts by your body to recover, even if you eat kilograms of vitamins. You won't hear this hard fact at a regular checkup. You will simply be prescribed pills for pain. But today, we will take off the rose-colored glasses. In this video, we will break down the 6 steps you must take if you don't want to spend the rest of your life dependent on caregivers. This is the harsh biological truth. Before we begin, I would be grateful if you would write in the comments what city you are from and how old you are. This helps me better understand our geography and prepare materials that will be useful specifically for you. I read all your comments carefully. So let's get started. Step number 6, sunlight. Perhaps you just thought, can a walk in the sun really save me from frailty? The answer is yes. And the mechanism of this salvation is much more complex and surprising than just fresh air. To understand why your muscles weaken with age, we need to look deep inside your body, to a level invisible to the eye. Inside each of your muscle cells, whether it's a leg, arm, or heart muscle, there are tiny organelles called mitochondria. They are responsible for converting nutrients and oxygen into the energy needed for muscle contraction. In youth, this process is as efficient as possible. However, as we age, mitochondrial dysfunction develops. Energy production decreases, and oxidative processes that damage the cell intensify. It is this physiological failure that you feel when climbing stairs. Shortness of breath and rapid fatigue. In this case, are objective clinical signs that your cells are experiencing a critical energy deficit and cannot sustain the load. Most people know about melatonin only as a sleep hormone produced by the brain at night. But recent studies conducted by specialists at the National Institute on Aging have overturned our understanding. It turns out that when the infrared spectrum of sunlight penetrates your skin, it stimulates melatonin production right inside your muscle cells. This daytime melatonin does not make you sleepy. On the contrary, it acts as a powerful antioxidant that cleans and repairs your mitochondria. The sun rejuvenates your muscles, helping them produce energy as efficiently as they did in your youth. A lack of sunlight causes cellular stress, which makes muscles weaken and atrophy. But there is a second, no less critical reason why you must go outside. This is the vitamin of strength, better known as vitamin D. We are used to hearing that vitamin D is needed for strong bones. This is true, but it is just the tip of the iceberg. For an elderly person, vitamin D is the main communicator between the brain and the muscles. Imagine your brain sending a signal to your leg. Take a step. Maintain balance. Vitamin D is the very wire through which this signal travels. With age, our skin loses its ability to synthesize this vitamin effectively, and its levels drop catastrophically. A report published in 2023 in the Journal of the American Geriatric Society showed a frightening statistic. Elderly people with the vitamin D deficiency have a 60% higher risk of sudden loss of balance and falling, not because they tripped, but because their muscles simply didn't have time to contract. The signal didn't get through. Many try to replace the sun with pills, and while supplements can help, nothing compares to the natural process of synthesizing vitamin D under the influence of ultraviolet light, which triggers a whole cascade of protective reactions in the body. Therefore, your first step toward strength is simple but mandatory. You must give your muscles energy. Try to spend at least 15 to 20 minutes a day outside, exposing your face and hands to the sunlight. This is not rest. This is therapy. However, even if you charge your cells with the energy of the sun, it will not help if your body lacks the strength to create key hormones. And here we move on to step number 5, which will make you reconsider the contents of your refrigerator and forget the old harmful advice of dietitians forever. Step number 5, healthy fats. Remember how many times you have heard the advice, to be healthy, you need to eliminate fatty foods. Fat-free cottage cheese, 0% fat milk, giving up butter. We have been taught to fear fat like fire. But for a person over 60, this defatting strategy is not just wrong, it can become a catalyst for decrepitude. Why? Because fats are not just calories that are stored on your waist. They are a critically important raw material. With age, our body faces a serious problem, a natural decline in the level of anabolic hormones. These are the very hormones, including testosterone, which is important for both men and women, that are responsible for maintaining muscle mass and bone strength. And here lies the main secret. Our body produces these hormones precisely from cholesterol and fatty acids. Fat is the building material for your hormonal system. A large-scale review published by the American Heart Association showed a pattern that was unexpected for many. Elderly people who adhere to strict low-fat diets often have dangerously low levels of the hormones needed for muscle recovery. Think of it this way. When you consciously remove healthy fats from your diet, you deprive your body of the bricks from which it could build a defense against old age. You are turning off your hormonal support system with your own hands. But that's not all. There is a second reason why fats are vital for you. This is the role of transport. You can spend money on the best vitamin complexes or eat kilograms of vegetables. But vitamins A, D, E, and K, the very ones that protect your muscles and bones, are fat-soluble. This means that without the presence of fat, they are simply not absorbed. They pass through your body in transit, providing no benefit. Researchers from Tufts University found that many elderly people suffer from a hidden nutrient deficiency, not because they eat poorly, but because their diet lacks the transport vehicle, fats that would deliver these vitamins to the cells. Therefore, your task in step 5 is to stop being afraid. Bring back olive oil, avocados, nuts, fatty fish, and quality butter into your diet. These are not the enemies of your figure. They are the only fuel that will allow your hormones to work for you, not against you. But even if you provide the body with the energy of the sun and fats, all this will be useless if you do not give the body time to recover. And this recovery happens only in one very specific state, which we will talk about in step number 4. Step number 4, quality sleep, the only time you get stronger. Many of us are used to thinking that sleep is a passive state, just a rest from activities. You might think, I'll sleep a little less, but I'll have time to do more around the house. But if your goal is to maintain strength and independence, this logic is flawed. You must remember a biological axiom. You do not get stronger when you exercise, walk, or work in the garden. At that time, you are only creating a demand for strength and causing micro trauma to your muscles. They grow, recover, and strengthen at only one time while you are sleeping. If you sleep less than 7 hours or your sleep is intermittent and shallow, you are manually turning on the self-destruct mode in your body. This process has two powerful levers. The first critical factor is somatotropin, or growth hormone. It is a key regulator that stimulates protein synthesis and ensures the regeneration of damaged muscle fibers. The physiology of this process is as follows. The pituitary gland secretes this hormone in pulses, with the main peak of release occurring exclusively during the deep sleep phase. Data from the Stanford Medicine Sleep Center indicates a serious pathology. In patients over 60 with chronic sleep deprivation, the level of growth hormone production drops to critically low values. As a result, in the absence of the necessary hormonal response, the process of muscle tissue recovery is physically blocked. The second lever is even scarier. When you deprive the brain of sleep, it perceives this as a critical threat to survival. In response, the adrenal glands flood the blood with cortisol. Doctors call it the stress hormone, but for your muscles, it is pure acid. Cortisol is a catabolic hormone. Its job is to break down tissues for quick energy. In a report published in the medical journal The Lancet, scientists concluded that just 1 week of poor sleep reduces the ability of muscles to regenerate by 18%. In fact, high cortisol begins to dismantle your muscles for parts. You wake up in the morning not just tired, you wake up biologically weaker than when you went to bed. You lose the very asset that should protect you from falls. Therefore, the fight for quality sleep is not a matter of comfort. Ventilate the room, sleep in complete darkness, and make a routine your priority. But even if you sleep perfectly, your refrigerator may hide foods that act like an invisible wall, blocking the flow of nutrition to your muscles. And we will talk about them in the third step. Step number 3, eliminating the destroyers, chemical barriers to growth. This is a critically important point that many overlook. You can perfectly follow the other recommendations. Walk in the sun, maintain a sleep schedule, and do exercises. But if you ignore this point, your efforts can be chemically blocked by your own diet. We are talking about products that create an environment in the body that is incompatible with muscle growth and recovery. The main culprits here are excess sugar and processed meat. Let's look at the biological mechanism of sugar's effect. With age, our cells naturally lose sensitivity to insulin. Insulin is a hormone that not only regulates glucose levels, but is also responsible for transporting amino acids or protein into the muscle cell. When you regularly consume sweets, pastries, or sugary drinks, the insulin level in your blood remains chronically high. Over time, the cells stop responding to it. A condition known as insulin resistance develops. As a result, even if you eat healthy protein, it simply cannot get inside the muscle tissue because the transport system is not working. The muscles are left without nutrition. A study published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition showed elderly people with high consumption of added sugar lose muscle mass significantly faster, regardless of their total calorie intake. The second group of dangerous products is processed meat, sausages, hot dogs, bacon. These products contain preservatives and nitrates that provoke systemic inflammation in the body. This is not the inflammation you feel as pain from a bruise. It is a hidden process at the cellular level where special molecules, inflammatory cytokines, are released into the blood. Specialists at Johns Hopkins Medicine have established a direct link. A high level of systemic inflammation blocks anabolic signals. the body goes into a defense mode and deliberately stops the synthesis of new protein to conserve resources. Therefore, the third step requires strict discipline from you. Remove these chemical barriers. Replace processed meat with natural meat and sweets with fruits or nuts. Only by cleansing the body of these inhibitors will you allow it to respond to physical activity. Now that we have eliminated the obstacles, it's time to talk about the main building component. Without it, no training will yield results, and it is here that most people over 60 make a fatal miscalculation. This is step number 2. Step number 2, protein, overcoming anabolic resistance. The second step concerns a critical error in nutrition. Many older adults reduce their consumption of meat and fish, believing that with decreased activity, they need less food. Biologically, this is incorrect. The protein requirement of aging muscles does not decrease, but increases. We are faced with a phenomenon that in medicine is called anabolic resistance. This is a decrease in the sensitivity of muscle tissue to amino acids. The amount of protein that stimulated muscle growth at 30 years old has no effect at 60. The body simply does not respond to weak signals. To start the process of tissue repair, it is necessary to overcome this sensitivity threshold. The key role here is played by the amino acid leucine, found in animal products. According to the National Institute on Aging, leucine is the chemical trigger for protein synthesis. If the concentration of leucine in the blood is insufficient, the muscle recovery process physically does not start, regardless of how many calories you have consumed. Fractional eating or small portions of protein do not work here. Eating a sandwich with cheese is not enough. It will not reach the necessary activation threshold. Your goal is to consume at least 25 to 30 grams of complete protein in one meal. This is the only effective dosage capable of overcoming age-related resistance and forcing the body to renew muscle fibers. Now that we have provided the body with energy, eliminated inflammation, and given the necessary building material, all that remains is to fulfill the main condition. Without it, all the resources consumed will remain unclaimed. This is step number 1. Step number 1, resistance training, a biological necessity. We have come to the first and most important point. Without fulfilling this condition, all the previous steps, nutrition, sleep, supplements, will not produce results. We are talking about regular resistance training. From a biological point of view, muscles are an energy-intensive tissue. If you lead a sedentary lifestyle, the body initiates an adaptation mechanism and begins to get rid of muscle mass in order not to waste resources on its maintenance. This process is called atrophy. The only way to stop this process is to create a physiological demand for tissue preservation. When you perform resistance exercises, whether it's squats, wall push-ups, or working with a resistance band, you create mechanical tension in the muscle fibers. This tension causes micro-damage to the cellular structures. It is this micro-damage that serves as a chemical signal to your brain. It informs the body that the current muscle mass is insufficient to perform life's tasks. Only after receiving this signal does the body begin to use protein and hormones to strengthen and build up the fibers. Without the load, this signal does not exist. You can consume the ideal amount of protein, but without the stimulus from exercise, it will simply be oxidized and excreted without being incorporated into the muscles. A study from Tufts University showed in sedentary people over 70 who started a basic resistance training program, muscle strength increased by more than 50% in just 12 weeks. This proves that the mechanism of muscle growth is preserved at any age, but it requires forced activation. Your task is to perform resistance exercises at least 2 to 3 times a week. This is not an option. It is a mandatory condition for preventing disability. Now you have the full picture. Sarcopenia is not inevitable old age. It is a biological process that can be managed. We have broken down 6 proven methods. 6. Sunlight to stimulate mitochondria. 5. Healthy fats for hormone synthesis. 4. Quality sleep for growth hormone production. 3. Eliminating sugar and processed meat to reduce systemic inflammation. 2. A sufficient amount of protein to overcome anabolic resistance. And resistance training as the only signal for preserving muscles. Start implementing these principles gradually. Don't try to change everything at once. Choose one point, make it a habit, and move on to the next. And now I want to ask you, which of these steps seems the most difficult for you to implement? Write in the comments. We read your answers. Thank you for watching.